Hey everyone, Perry here. Welcome back to the cassette phase. So we're still operating temporarily as a faceless YouTube channel until my eye finishes healing up from my recent procedure. So I appreciate your patience on that. But I did want to hop on for just a few minutes today to talk about some forgotten TV shows from the 80s and the 90s. Now, if you're a nostalgia connoisseur, and you frequent these types of YouTube channels, then these shows are probably not completely forgotten about, at least not for you. But if you're a casual observer of 80s and 90s pop culture, maybe this video will unlock a memory or two for you. Either way, it's always fun to hang out and just talk about old TV shows from a simpler time. So that's what we're gonna do today. Does that sound like fun to you? Come hang out. So I have three that I want to talk about today. I've got plenty others, but I want to save some for future videos because this is a topic that I could talk all day about, honestly. But the first one I want to talk about today comes from the early 90s, and that's a show called Phenom. Does anyone remember Phenom? Let's see. So this starred Judith Light, previously of Who's the Boss fame, and then also Angela Goethals, who I had only ever seen before in Home Alone.
You're what the French call les incompetents. What?
And she plays like a young, up and coming tennis player who's supposed to be the next big thing. Like, I don't know, maybe she was supposed to be the next like Monica Seles or Steffi Graf or something like that. And then we also had the younger sister, hard to tell from that picture, but that was Ashley Johnson, who had previously played Chrissy Seaver on Growing Pains. So now this was a show that I really liked. Like I said before, mostly about the teenage tennis player named Angela, which makes sense because her name was Angela in real life as well. Makes it pretty easy to remember. But I don't know. I liked watching tennis a lot back in the 80s and the 90s. I still kind of do. I was a big fan of Andre Agassi and watching Wimbledon and all that type of stuff. So this show really worked for me. But now this ran in a prime slot for its one season. It was on Tuesday nights, 8:30, 7:30 Central, right between Full House and Roseanne. And apparently it did pretty well in the ratings, from what I can read, from what I've read. It supposedly maintained 95% of its lead-in audience for the people that watched Full House. They stuck around to watch Phenom, so it's kind of surprising that it didn't get another season with all of those factors considered. But and one of the absolute best parts of the show was the theme song, which I'm going to try to show in a minute. Hopefully there won't be copyright issues, but I'm going to try anyway because it's just so great. It's written and performed by Carly Simon. It's called The Promise and the Prize, and I'm telling you, if you haven't heard that song since this show aired, it immediately transports you back. It's just got that warm feeling, the wholesome vibe, and they used kind of like what I consider to be like a lost art form these days, where they have the theme song, that comes on at the beginning, where there's a singer, actually singing, and there's lyrics and everything. But then when they get to the end credits, it's an instrumental version of the song, and instead of the singer, they've got like an electric guitar playing the melody, or sometimes even like a saxophone playing the melody. And I don't know, I love when shows did that. I don't think a whole lot of shows are doing that these days. So but one of the best parts of the show, the theme song for sure. I'm going to try to put it in here, and when you hear this, let me know if this transports you back in time. Now, if you're like me, that just hits you right in the nostalgic feels every time. But where to watch? Unfortunately, only YouTube that I know of. There hasn't been a DVD release that I'm aware of. I've looked. I've actually been kind of looking for years. And it's not on any streaming services that I know of, which is a shame. But yeah, good cast. Great scenery within the house. Just early 90s, light-toned wood grains and plaids and all the great stuff from that era. Really fun one to watch. If you want to go back and check out a couple episodes, I highly encourage that you do so. Okay, so for this next one, let's go back a few years to the late 80s, spanning into the early 90s. We've got a show that ran from 87 to 90 called My Two Dads, starring, of course, Paul Reiser, Greg Evigan, and Stacy Keenan. And this was a show that I liked a lot as a young kid. I think the premise was just that the daughter, Nicole, I think her mom had passed away, and they were placing her in custody with her father. And they didn't know which of these two gentlemen was the biological father. I think while they were figuring that out, Nicole had come and stayed with them. And I can't remember exactly how that all played out, but I think there was like an actual DNA test, and they had the results in an envelope, and they just decided not to open them because they didn't want to know, because they'd already both been attached. And they, decided right then that they were going to try to raise her together. So this one had an interesting supporting cast. Dick Butkus was in this show. Giovanni Ribisi, of all people. Yeah, and just another one with great interior design and scenery. This dad of the two dads was like the artsy type, like the musician type. In fact, he actually sings the theme song, which is an awesome, cheesy 80s pop rock song on its own right. But he lived in like a loft that had like really cool, like unique furniture that he had made out of various things. And like, I think there was some neon. In fact, I know there was at least one neon sign in the show, because it shows up in the intro. But yeah, just another fun one. Could they make it today? I don't know. I don't care. Back then, it was just a silly, good little half-hour sitcom with a really likable cast. I think I've talked about Stacy Keenan before on the channel. Of course, we got to know her more later on Step by Step as Dana. But I think she's so cool. I was probably, so I would have been 6, 7, 8 years old. So I was too young to like have a crush on her in this show or anything like that, but I just thought she was cool. And then I found out later in life she became an attorney. And she actually has a podcast going right now called Keenan and Lakin, where she talks with Christine Lakin, who was also on Step by Step, played Al Lambert. And they go back and talk about their 90s TV show, and that's been really fun to listen to. She's got a really cool personality, really interesting to hear her perspectives on time back then and how everything went for them as child actors. But yeah, now where can you watch this? Apparently there are DVD sets of the actual seasons, at least I think the first 2. I'd like to track that down sometime, because this is only like a 10-episode sampler of the show. But it's also been streaming all kinds of places. I know that it was on Tubi for a long time. It may still be, or Pluto, but it's an easy one to find. So yeah, if you haven't seen it in a while, go back and check it out. It's innocent, harmless, wholesome fun from the late 80s, and it's got a great aesthetic to it. So yeah, My Two Dads. And for this last one, for today at least, we're bouncing back into the 90s with a show that could probably be considered like a Saved by the Bell clone, only at the beach. And that is, of course, California Dreams. Now this one, for me, as cheesy as it is, there are times that I'd actually rather go back and watch this than I would something like Saved by the Bell. I don't know. It had music in it, you know. I think I read that there were like 40 original songs written and performed on this show, which I thought was kind of cool. All of them have that late 80s, early 90s glossy, you know, synthesizer cheese, which I'm a fan of. I don't have a problem with any of that. So yeah, I think that added like a different element. I know Saved by the Bell had some episodes where they did music too, but it was like a really like central focus on California Dreams. And the cast shifted a little bit over the seasons. I'm really only more familiar with like the first couple of seasons. Yeah, in fact, the sister that I'm most familiar with isn't even on this cover, and the brother too, Matt. You know, the main two kids from the very first season aren't even shown here, but now this. Okay, so I would have been 12, 13, 14. So I absolutely did have crushes in this show. Kelly Packard, who played Tiffany, later went on to star on Baywatch, of all things. You know, and I follow all these people on social media. They'll get together sometimes and do like little reunions where they'll do a concert and perform some of the songs, which is just fun to watch. You know, there wasn't much to this. Not original by any stretch of the imagination. Like I said before, kind of a Saved by the Bell clone. In fact, I think they even repeated some of the exact same storylines, just with different characters. But yeah, you know, something about the first few chords that play on that opening theme song, which I might try to share a little bit of that here in a minute, that just takes me back, for whatever reason, to a very specific time and place of, you know, a sunshiny Saturday morning, late in the morning, where maybe I've already had my breakfast and I'm getting ready to go play soccer. You know, I'm trying to find my shin guards and my cleats and get ready to head out the door for a day of soccer games.
Surf dudes with attitudes, kind of groovy, laid back moves. Sky above, sand below. Good vibrations, feeling mellow. Don't wake me up. Don't wake me up if I'm dreaming.
And so, you know, this was playing on the TV in the living room while I was doing that. That's kind of the memory that sticks out with California Dreams. But I know a lot of people probably remember this one, so it may not be the best choice for Forgotten. But, you know, it's a fun one to talk about. Don't know that it's streaming anywhere. You can get the DVDs, seasons, and like a sample like I have here. And as I think there also are probably a few episodes on YouTube. So anyway, that's it for today. I do have several more of these that I want to talk about in the future. That will, you know, we'll go into detail on some random obscure, you know, sitcoms and cartoons from our childhoods. So stay tuned for that if you enjoy that type of thing. Consider subscribing so you don't miss out. But as always, I'll leave you with, remember to relax, enjoy life, and be kind. We'll see you in the next one.